In terms of what I think of as the most versatile GURPS skills, it's a great question, and I really, I've been thinking about this a little bit, and I break down my thought process into three sort of distinct categories. First, the social skills are very versatile because they open up avenues of dealing with obstacles that don't involve personal risk. So, among these, I would focus primarily on diplomacy and on fast talk as probably being the most versatile, most appropriate for every circumstance. Now, diplomacy has to recommend the fact that it can't ever get worse than a neutral reaction. Even if you fail the skill roll, you don't, shoot yourself in the foot. But on the other hand, it's also slower. It takes a little more time. Takes setup. Takes a little massaging. And it requires that the character, requires that the player, observe social niceties, who has time for that? Which brings us to fast talk, which you don't have to prepare, and although you can fail and get a negative reaction, you can just walk into any situation and off the cuff, think on your feet and do whatever comes up in the moment. And if I know anything about GMs, especially Paolo, it's that if you make a plan, he will go out of his way to dash it. So, Fast Talk has that to recommend it. Moving on from social skills, you could think about non-combat physical skills, and here I focus on movement skills. I think like acrobatics, running, climbing, hiking even, which nobody really pays much attention to. But movement skills, getting from place A to place B, and managing to there's a lot of things you can do with acrobatics. If you're a dexterous character, you don't have to fight, don't have to talk. You can get in places, get out of places, and extricate yourself from jams in a way that you can't necessarily with a blade or with words. So I think there's a lot of versatility to be had in movement skills. Now I'm going to sort of skip right over any of the professional skills, any of the crafting skills, anything like that, because I think those are really very specific, and so versatility doesn't really enter into it much. There are use case scenarios for things like engineering and architecture that I've had a lot of fun with, but those obviously are much more specialist skills. Scrounging I quite like, though. Search skills, perception skills, those come up a lot. Are they really versatile, though? That's an excellent question, and I've chosen not to count those among this pool of things that I would really call versatile, because although they come up often and are used in many different situations, they're filling one role in terms of the character's abilities. So I'd stay away from those. Third, I would categorize the combat skills together, and obviously these you have to pay attention to. Weapon skills have a lot to recommend them in terms of damage output, but they're tool dependent, right? So if you want to think about versatile skills, I think in GURPS you have to begin and end with the unarmed combat skills. Maybe improvised weapons, improvise with broadsword, get baseball bats and batons, things like that. It's possible. Maybe you'd get into improvised weapons, but that you're really talking about perks and improvised weapon training to get rid of some of the penalties, and it's very cinematic, so I wouldn't call it versatile for every game. Anyway, unarmed combat skills are very interesting because obviously they don't require tools. They don't require you to be prepared for a given thing. They work if you've been captured and had your magic weapon stripped away from you. So that's why unarmed combat skills are very valuable. Now, a lot of people would point at karate here in the unarmed combat skills. It's the hard unarmed striking skill. Teaches kicking, improved retreat bonuses, parrying bonuses, great improved damage scale. But I would put forth a passionate defense of boxing as an alternative. It's one step easier than karate, which means on average you'll end up with one more skill level in it, so more cool stuff that you can do. And it also maintains a superior damage scale like karate, good retreats, better parries. It doesn't teach kicking or some of the more exotic striking maneuvers, but frankly, most of that I don't think you need. There's plenty of versatility in the combat system and the bog standard combat options as they are. And so boxing, for its ability to get you the extra skill level for fewer points, is more applicable in a wider array of situations. But one thing I would want to talk about is grappling skills. And whether I would list these as really versatile, it really depends on whether you're playing with technical grappling or not. Because in the rules as written, basic set grappling has an interesting curve. It's very powerful for a one-turn action. By default, it's a -4 to dex-based skill rules for whoever's grappled. Only takes one turn to grapple somebody. And you can do things like wrench limb and joint locks and things like that, but it's really pretty limited, pretty one note in terms of what the next set of rules are. Technical grappling really expands and generalizes the whole system. It sort of generalizes joint locks and pain compliance in a way that makes sense. It generalizes throws and crippling limbs and direct damage attacks using grappling skills in a very strong way, very powerful way. So for one-on-one combat especially, there's a lot you can do with grappling skills that maybe is underappreciated. But I think it really requires working with technical grappling. But for all that, high skill in judo and wrestling for combat skills might be the most versatile combat skills that I can think of anyway. So to return to the overarching question, the original question of what the most versatile skill in all of GURPS is, it's just a great question. I've thought a lot about it, and I haven't really gotten any close to an answer. It's very much like being asked to choose between your children. How could you pick? They're all so close to my heart. Not of course to say that I had anything to do with the development of GURPS. That's all Steve Jackson and the very talented editorial staff that's currently working there. But Peter probably just picked erotic arts.